Before microwaves hummed in every kitchen and snack aisles stretched for miles, American families gathered around coffee tables filled with homemade treats that felt modern, fun, and a little magical. The 1970s were a decade of convenience, creativity, and colorful party plates that defined after-school bites and weekend get-togethers. But somewhere along the way, these easy homemade snacks quietly disappeared. Tonight, we're opening the recipe box and bringing them back. If you love forgotten flavors and food history that tastes like childhood, subscribe to America's Lost Recipes and step back into a groovier kitchen. Let's rediscover what made them special. Cheese ball with chipped beef. Picture a living room in 1974. The television hums softly, shag carpet underfoot, and on the coffee table sits a glass platter crowned with something unmistakable, a glossy, nut-studded cheese ball. This wasn't just a snack. It was a centerpiece. The classic cheese ball with chipped beef rose to fame in the 1970s, when convenience foods met cocktail party culture. Cream cheese became the base, whipped smooth and blended with dried beef slices, those salty, paper-thin ribbons sold in small jars. A splash of Worcestershire sauce, a pinch of garlic powder, maybe a handful of green onions. Then it was shaped by hand, rolled in chopped pecans, and chilled until firm. It looked elegant. It felt modern. And it required no baking at all. Hosts placed it proudly beside a stack of buttery crackers, inviting guests to gather, spread, and chat. The salty beef balanced the rich creaminess, while the crunch of nuts added texture. It was bold, savory, and just indulgent enough to feel special without being expensive. In an era when entertaining at home was a social ritual, this cheese ball symbolized effort without extravagance. It appeared at holiday parties, card nights, and neighborhood potlucks. Children would sneak small crackerfuls before dinner. Adults paired it with soda, punch, or something stronger poured discreetly nearby. Today, prepackaged dips dominate grocery shelves, and the humble cheese ball feels almost theatrical in comparison. Yet it represents something deeper, a time when snacks were shaped by hand and served with pride. And somehow, that simple sphere of cream cheese carried the flavor of an entire decade. Pineapple and cream cheese dip. There was something unmistakably 1970s about the combination of sweet fruit and savory cream cheese. It was bold. It was unexpected. And at nearly every gathering, it appeared in a pastel-colored bowl beside a stack of Ritz crackers. Pineapple and cream cheese dip became a quiet favorite during a decade obsessed with canned convenience. Crushed pineapple, syrup and all, was folded into softened cream cheese until the mixture turned silky and pale yellow. A sprinkle of chopped green peppers or onions sometimes added contrast. Some versions included a dash of seasoned salt. Others leaned fully into sweetness, finished with a handful of toasted pecans on top. It required no stove, no oven, no complicated technique. Just a mixing bowl and a spoon. The magic was in the contrast. The tang of cream cheese met the bright sweetness of pineapple, creating a flavor that felt tropical and modern. For families who rarely traveled far, this little bowl of sunshine hinted at distant beaches and exotic vacations. It felt glamorous in a modest, Midwestern living room. Hosts loved it because it was affordable and easy to double for larger crowds. Children loved it because it tasted almost like dessert, even though it sat proudly among savory snacks. It bridged generations at the table. In a time when entertaining meant homemade effort rather than store-bought trays, this dip symbolized creativity. Canned pineapple was always in the pantry. Cream cheese was dependable. Together, they became something celebratory. Today, fruit and cheese combinations are carefully curated on charcuterie boards. But back then it was simpler. And for a brief, bright moment in the 1970s, this sweet and savory bowl was the taste of togetherness. Ham roll UPS with pickle centers. At first glance, they looked almost too simple to matter. A slice of deli ham, a swipe of cream cheese, and a single dill pickle spear tucked inside. Rolled tight, sliced into bite-sized spirals, and arranged neatly on a plate, ham roll-ups were a quiet staple of 1970s snack tables. But simplicity was their genius. In a decade shaped by convenience, these no-cook appetizers fit perfectly into busy households. Mothers preparing for bridge club or birthday parties could assemble a tray in minutes. No oven to preheat. No complicated steps. Just soft cream cheese spread over salty ham, wrapped snugly around a crisp pickle that delivered a sharp, briny snap with every bite. The flavor contrast was bold and unforgettable. Creamy met salty. Smooth met crunchy. The pickle's tang cut through the richness, making each slice surprisingly balanced. For children, they were fun finger food. For adults, they felt just fancy enough to serve at gatherings without appearing overly formal. Sometimes the recipe evolved. A sprinkle of garlic powder. A dash of onion flakes. Occasionally the pickle was replaced with a green onion stalk for a milder bite. But the heart of the snack remained the same. 3 affordable ingredients transformed into something party-worthy. These roll-ups often appeared beside deviled eggs and cheese balls, forming a trio of dependable favorites. They were arranged with care, toothpicks optional, always chilled before serving. And by the end of the evening, the plate was usually empty. Today, they may seem almost retro in their minimalism. Yet they represent a time when creativity meant making something memorable out of what was already in the refrigerator. And somehow, that tight little spiral captured the flavor of an entire generation's gatherings. Deviled ham sandwich spread. Long before gourmet sliders and artisanal spreads filled party menus, there was a small can with bold lettering sitting quietly in kitchen cupboards across America. Deviled ham sandwich spread was smoky, salty, and slightly mysterious, and in the 1970s, it became a snack-time staple. The idea was simple: finely ground ham blended with mayonnaise, mustard, and spices until it formed a creamy, spreadable paste. Some families bought it ready-made. Others mixed their own using leftover baked ham from Sunday dinner, grinding it by hand and seasoning it generously with paprika and black pepper. Spread thick between slices of soft white bread and cut into triangles, it became an instant after-school snack. Scooped onto crackers, it turned into an easy party appetizer. The word deviled hinted at spice, though the heat was usually mild, just enough to make it feel grown up. It was affordable, filling, and practical. In a decade balancing inflation and busy schedules, nothing went to waste. Leftover meat found new life. A single bowl of deviled ham could stretch into dozens of sandwiches for unexpected guests. The flavor was rich and comforting, deeply savory with a hint of tang from mustard. It paired perfectly with potato chips and a glass of cold soda. And because it required no reheating, it fits seamlessly into casual entertaining. Today, sandwich spreads have become more elaborate, filled with fresh herbs and specialty ingredients. But deviled ham was different. It wasn't about sophistication. It was about resourcefulness and flavor packed into something simple. For many families, that humble pink spread wasn't just lunch. It was proof that a little creativity could turn leftovers into something worth gathering around. Jello fruit whip cups. There was a moment in the 1970s when dessert and snack blurred into something airy, pastel, and proudly jiggling in the refrigerator. Jello fruit whip cups were light, colorful, and felt almost futuristic, as if science itself had joined the kitchen. Flavored gelatin had already captured America's imagination decades earlier, but in the 70s it evolved. Instead of firm molded rings, families began whipping partially set gelatin with canned fruit cocktail and folded in whipped topping. The result was soft, fluffy, and spoonable, somewhere between a mousse and a cloud. Served in small glass cups or plastic party tumblers, these fruit whips glowed in shades of strawberry pink, lime green, and orange sunset. Suspended peaches, pears, and cherries peeked through the translucent mixture like edible confetti. It looked cheerful, almost playful. Preparation required patience rather than skill. The gelatin had to cool just enough before whipping, creating that signature airy texture. Then it was spooned into cups and chilled until gently set. No baking. No complicated steps. Just timing and a steady hand. Children adored it because it felt like dessert masquerading as something light. Adults appreciated its affordability and how easily it stretched to serve a crowd. It appeared at potlucks, baby showers, church gatherings, and backyard barbecues. The flavor was sweet, slightly tangy, and unmistakably nostalgic. Each spoonful carried the soft bounce of gelatin paired with creamy smoothness from whipped topping. It was playful food in a decade that embraced bold colors and convenience. Today, gelatin desserts rarely take center stage. But for a generation raised on Fruit Whip cups, that shimmering pastel bowl meant celebration. Simple, bright, and delightfully homemade. Peanut butter and marshmallow fluff sandwich squares. There was a time when sweetness felt uncomplicated, when a jar of peanut butter and a tub of marshmallow fluff could turn an ordinary afternoon into something memorable. In the 1970s, peanut butter and marshmallow fluff sandwich squares were a favorite shortcut treat, soft, sticky, and impossible to forget. The idea wasn't new. The fluffernutter had existed for decades. But during the 70s, it transformed into something party-ready. Instead of simple sandwiches, families pressed creamy peanut butter and thick marshmallow spread between slices of white bread, trimmed the crusts, and cut them into neat squares or triangles. Arranged carefully on a platter, they looked almost elegant. No oven was required. No stovetop either. Just a butter knife, a steady hand, and ingredients already waiting in the pantry. The flavor was pure comfort. The salty richness of peanut butter met the airy sweetness of marshmallow in perfect contrast. Each bite was soft, pillowy, and indulgent without feeling heavy. For children, it was the ultimate treat, sweet enough to feel like dessert, yet acceptable as a snack. Mothers loved how quickly they could assemble a tray before a birthday party or school gathering. The sandwiches were affordable, filling, and endlessly customizable. Some added a thin layer of butter. Others sprinkled in crushed peanuts for texture. But the classic version needed nothing more. In a decade that embraced convenience foods and playful combinations, these sandwich squares symbolized carefree afternoons. They were packed into lunchboxes, served at sleepovers, and devoured before cartoons even finished. Today, they might seem overly simple in a world of gourmet pastries and elaborate desserts. Yet that soft stack of peanut butter and fluff carried something priceless, the sweetness of childhood, pressed gently between two slices of bread. Tuna stuffed celery boats. Imagine a 1970s kitchen counter lined with a simple but striking snack, crisp, green celery stalks cradling a creamy, savory filling. Tuna stuffed celery boats were the perfect blend of nutrition, convenience, and eye-catching presentation. A snack that looked as special as it tasted. The concept was deceptively simple. Flaked canned tuna was mixed with mayonnaise, a dash of mustard, finely chopped onions, and sometimes a sprinkle of celery salt. Some families added diced pickles or hard-boiled egg for extra texture and flavor. The mixture was spooned generously into the hollow of celery sticks, forming miniature edible boats ready for parties or after-school snacks. The appeal lay in the contrast: crisp celery, creamy tuna filling, and occasionally a pop of paprika or a green olive on top. Every bite offered crunch, smoothness, and a salty tang that delighted both children and adults. Mothers appreciated the healthy twist. A vegetable base made it feel wholesome, while the filling satisfied the craving for something rich and savory. These celery boats were versatile. They appeared on buffet tables alongside deviled eggs, cheese balls, and ham roll-ups, forming a trifecta of 1970s appetizer classics. Quick to assemble, they could be prepared in advance and chilled, making entertaining almost effortless. In a decade before Instagram-worthy charcuterie boards, presentation mattered in small ways. The bright green stalks arranged neatly on a platter signaled care and attention, even for such a simple snack. Today, tuna-stuffed celery feels quaint, almost old-fashioned. But in their heyday, these little boats carried a perfect balance of flavor, texture, and convenience. They remind us that even the simplest ingredients, thoughtfully combined, could turn everyday snacks into something memorable, a taste of a time when creativity met practicality on every kitchen counter. Ritz Cracker Mock Apple Pie Bites. If you grew up in the 1970s, chances are you remember the magic of transforming pantry staples into something almost gourmet. Ritz Cracker Mock Apple Pie Bites were a perfect example. Tiny, sweet, and deceptively simple, they captured the essence of the era's inventive snacking. The recipe was clever in its minimalism. Crushed Ritz crackers formed the base, combined with sugar, cinnamon, and sometimes a bit of butter or margarine to hold them together. Canned apple pie filling, often spiced and sweet, was spooned on top, and the bites were finished with a sprinkling of more crumbs for crunch. Some families baked them briefly to melt everything together. Others served them chilled for a no-bake shortcut. The charm was in the illusion. Bite-sized and crisp on the outside, soft and sweet in the center, these little snacks mimicked a classic apple pie without the fuss of rolling dough or waiting for an oven timer. Children adored the portability, a quick treat between school and homework. Adults appreciated the nostalgic flavors, reminiscent of Sunday desserts with a modern, party-ready twist. Presentation mattered even then. Arranged neatly on a serving tray, the golden brown bites looked like miniature pastries, hinting at indulgence while remaining accessible and affordable. They were staples at church socials, bridge nights, and neighborhood potlucks. Though they've mostly vanished from modern kitchens, these mock apple pie bites reveal the resourcefulness of the 1970s cook. Creativity often came from transforming simple ingredients into something visually appealing and flavorfully satisfying. And for those who remember them, each small bite carries a memory: the sweet scent of cinnamon, the buttery crunch of Ritz crackers, and the quiet satisfaction of a homemade snack that felt as special as a dessert straight from a bakery window. Bisquick sausage balls. The 1970s were a decade of convenience cooking, and few snacks embodied that spirit better than Bisquick sausage balls. Soft, golden, and slightly savory, they were a staple at brunches, church socials, and holiday gatherings, small bites that disappeared almost as quickly as they were baked. The recipe was deceptively simple. Pre-packaged Bisquick mix combined with shredded cheddar cheese and ground breakfast sausage, then rolled into small spheres. Some families added a pinch of black pepper or a dash of garlic powder to boost flavor. They baked quickly in the oven, filling the kitchen with a warm, irresistible aroma that drew children and adults alike to the counter. The magic of these sausage balls lay in their contrast of textures. Crispy on the outside, tender and cheesy on the inside, each bite offered a savory richness that felt indulgent yet comforting. The cheese melted perfectly into the sausage, binding the mixture while adding a golden hue that made the small bites visually appealing. They were portable and versatile. Served on a platter with toothpicks, they became an easy appetizer. Paired with a simple dipping sauce or enjoyed on their own, sausage balls fit effortlessly into the era's social snacking culture. In a time when entertaining at home meant balancing practicality with presentation, Bisquick sausage balls hit the mark. They were inexpensive, quick to prepare, and guaranteed to vanish first at any gathering. Today, modern snacks have grown more elaborate, but these golden spheres remind us that the 1970s kitchen prized efficiency without sacrificing flavor. Each sausage ball carries the warmth of home, the comfort of family gatherings, and the unmistakable taste of a decade where convenience met creativity in the most delicious ways. No-bake butterscotch haystacks. The 1970s loved snacks that were easy, sweet, and slightly whimsical, and no-bake butterscotch haystacks fit that description perfectly. With just a handful of pantry staples, families could create a treat that looked festive, tasted indulgent, and required almost no effort. The recipe began with butterscotch chips melted gently with a little butter or margarine until smooth and glossy. Into this warm mixture went chow mein noodles, yes, crunchy noodles, giving the snack an unexpected texture and a satisfying crisp in every bite. Some versions added shredded coconut or chopped nuts for extra flavor, though the classic relied solely on the sweet-savory balance of butterscotch and noodles. Once mixed, small clusters were dropped onto wax paper or a cookie sheet and left to set at room temperature or in the fridge. In minutes, they hardened into bite-sized haystacks, irregular in shape but perfectly charming. Their golden hue and playful texture made them a hit at children's birthday parties, school bake sales, and casual family gatherings. The flavor was simple yet addictive. Sweet butterscotch, a whisper of butter, and the crunch of noodles created a snack that was both chewy and crisp. It was inexpensive, fast, and guaranteed to vanish from any tray. No-bake butterscotch haystacks reflected the spirit of the 1970s kitchen, inventive, approachable, and a little daring. While modern desserts often rely on intricate techniques and exotic ingredients, these haystacks remind us that imagination and a few simple staples could create something timeless. Even decades later, the first bite evokes nostalgia, the scent of butterscotch, the snap of crunchy noodles, and the memory of childhood afternoons when a tiny homemade treat could feel like the grandest indulgence. And just like that, we've traveled back to the 1970s, rediscovering snacks that once brought joy to kitchens, classrooms, and living rooms across America. From creamy cheese balls to sweet butterscotch haystacks, each bite tells a story of creativity, simplicity, and togetherness. These easy homemade treats may have faded from shelves and recipe boxes, but their flavors linger in memory, a reminder that convenience didn't mean sacrificing love or imagination. If you enjoyed this nostalgic journey, subscribe to America's Lost Recipes and join us as we continue to revive forgotten flavors, one vintage snack at a time.